Hello, everybody. It's your pal, Miss Acreage. If you've been absent for the past couple of days, I wanted to jump on and give you a little bit of information about what we've been learning. We just reviewed figurative language, all types of figurative language, and we went pretty quickly. Figurative language is really important, especially in fiction when we're trying to discuss characters and author's intent and author's purposes. So I have this presentation on Google Classroom for you to look through at your leisure. I also put some filled in notes in there to help guide your studying and help you out when we're doing some assignments. But I know sometimes we like to hear people talk about it too. I know we have some auditory learners, so I wanted to go ahead and record what I needed to say about figurative language. Watch it, don't. Either way, it's okay. So figurative language, that it will be fair game on any quizzes, tests, or EOCs that we have are simile, metaphor, hyperbole, idiom, personification, onomatopoeia, and irony. There is one more type. It's called alliteration, but we usually don't hit that until we get into our third unit, our poetry unit. They use a lot of alliteration in poetry. So these pieces of figurative language should look fairly familiar to you already. We're just going to review them real quick. That way we are all on the same page. So let's just start at the top. Let's start with similes. So a simile is a comparison that uses like or as. All right, it's that easy. Similes are the bread and butter of figurative language. Similes are very easy to pick out as well. If you're reading a passage or you're reading a sentence and you see like or as, you know, ding, 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 I might be looking at a simile. Now, over here on the right, I've included a clip from Mulan. It's the I'll Make a Man Out of You song. I'm not going to play it right here, but if you want to go watch it, definitely do that. It's on Google Classroom in this presentation. But there's three really good examples of similes in this song. We must be swift as the coursing river, mysterious as the dark side of the moon, and tranquil as a forest. So you can see how the singer-songwriter here liked to use similes to compare their characters to pieces of nature using like or as. Now, the simile's cousin is a metaphor. A metaphor is a more direct comparison. A metaphor doesn't need like or as to make a comparison. Right over here on the right-hand side, I included examples from popular music. The first one that pops up is Life is a Highway. You'll see that the singer-songwriter didn't say life is like a highway. We said life is a highway. It is a more direct comparison. Same thing with Katy Perry's You're a Firework. Katy Perry didn't sing You're like a firework. She said You're a firework. A metaphor is a more direct comparison. And metaphors like similes are all over literature, particularly in these pop songs. That's partially what makes pop songs so popular. They're fun to listen to because of these metaphors. Next up, we have hyperbole. Now, this is where it'll start to get tricky because hyperbole and idiom are very, very similar. There's only one teeny tiny difference between them. So just be sure you're looking and watching out for this difference. But a hyperbole is simply an exaggerated statement. So it means it's a statement that we're not supposed to take literally. All right. That guy is ancient. I had to walk 50,000 miles to get here. Or I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. They are statements not meant to be taken literally. Now, here's another example. This bag weighs a ton. Does the bag really weigh a ton? No. It just means the bag is super heavy. We're just expressing how heavy the bag is. Here is another example. Miss Acreage is going to kill me, thought the student, because they had not turned any work in since the beginning of the semester. Is Miss Acreage really going to kill someone? No. The student is just exaggerating the fear of her wrath. All right. Now, Let's move on to idioms. This is where it can start to get tricky because idioms and hyperboles are very, very similar. So while a hyperbole is an exaggeration, an idiom is an established saying. So a lot of times hyperboles become idioms. We use hyperboles or certain hyperboles so much and so often, they become part of our cultural vocabulary. They become common sayings. All right. Now, idioms can be tricky because the only way to learn idioms is to read about a bunch of idioms. So this video over here, it says it's unavailable. It's not. If you click play, it'll work. But there's two good examples in that little video, and they are, see, it's trying to play already. They are, I'm a sensitive soul, though I seem thick-skinned. What does it mean to be thick-skinned? It doesn't literally mean your skin is 4 inches thick. It means you're tough. It means people can't hurt your feelings very often. And thick-skinned is a saying that a lot of people use a lot of the time. Another idiom is, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. This is a saying that means that you've got a really difficult decision to make. And either way you choose isn't too great, because a rock and a hard place is basically the same thing. Here's another really common idiom we run across. It's raining cats and dogs. Is it really raining cats and dogs? No, it's just raining a lot. And this is a saying that we have established through usage. So it's not a hyperbole anymore because we use it all the time. Here's some more idiom examples. Cat got your tongue, snug as a bug in a rug, going the extra mile, butterflies in my stomach, to go down in flames, or once in a blue moon. A lot of these sayings you've probably heard before, either from your friends, your parents, or you probably say them yourselves. All right. Next up, we have personification. So personification is giving human characteristics to non-human things. It makes our writing brighter. It makes our writing more vivid. So I have two examples over here on the right. The warm smell of flowers welcomes students into Miss Akridge's room. Now, can a smell really physically stand at the door and say, hi, welcome in, come on in to Miss Akridge's class, hi, welcome? No, we are giving it human characteristics, even though it's a non-human thing. The second example, a thick feeling of dread swallowed all the students as the test approached. Now, can an emotion physically get up and swallow you all? No, we are giving this non-human idea human characteristics to make our writing a little bit brighter. All right. I put here a really good example of personification in an ad campaign. You've probably seen them all before, but it's the Mayhem Man from Allstate. We know mayhem, chaos, that's an idea. It's not a physical thing. It's not a human. But in this ad campaign, Allstate gives mayhem a body. It gives mayhem a personality. Mayhem speaks to us. Mayhem talks to us, all right? We have given a non-human thing human characteristics. Coming up next is probably the easiest piece of figurative language to pick out, and that's onomatopoeia. An onomatopoeia is simply a word that imitates sound. So I put a bunch of examples over here. Bang, boom, zap, zip, pow. Think about comic books. Think about all the things that comic book illustrators and authors do to demonstrate a sound. They're pretty easy to pick out generally because they're set apart from a sentence by an exclamation point or by a comma, when it's not as strong. So onomatopoeias, like similes, super easy to pick out. Coming up next is irony. Now, irony is where it can get a little tricky because you can see we have 3 different types of irony. But the overall definition of irony in general is the use of words where the meaning is opposite of what is expected. So if you can just remember irony and opposite, you'll be in good shape. But we're going to go through these 3 different types. The first type we have is dramatic irony. Dramatic irony is when the audience, the reader, us, when we have more information about the story than the actual characters do. Right here, I encourage you to go watch these TED Ed videos. They're like 3 minutes a piece, but they do a great job of visualizing what these different types of irony look like. But to give you an example of what it looks like when the audience knows more about a story than the characters do, is The Truman Show. I don't know if you've seen The Truman Show. It's a fabulous movie. If you haven't, go watch it. But in The Truman Show, this guy Truman, his life is secretly being filmed for a TV show. We, the audience, knows what's happening, all right? Truman has no idea he's going through life as normal. He has no idea he's being filmed. We're in on the secret. We know more than Truman knows. Another classic example is from Shakespeare's Othello. Othello's best friend is trying to scheme his downfall, but Othello doesn't even know it. So in that moment, the audience knows more than our character. We are in on the secret, and that is dramatic irony. The second type of irony we're going to be looking at is situational irony. Now, situational irony is probably the most common form of irony. Situational irony is when the event or the outcome is way different, completely opposite than what we would expect. Usually, situational irony can be kind of humorous, but not always. Again, I encourage you to watch these TED Ed videos. They are so helpful in really understanding these 3 different types of irony. But the best example I can give you of situational irony is The Wizard of Oz, which I'm sure a lot of us have seen already. But in The Wizard of Oz, we are on this quest to find this great and powerful wizard. We think this wizard is going to be able to solve all the characters' problems. But at the end of the movie, we figure out the wizard is just some old guy who can't help anybody. So that's an example of situational irony. That outcome was way different than what we had originally expected. The last piece of irony we have is verbal irony. Verbal irony is when a speaker or a character says something that's the opposite than what they mean. This can be sarcasm, and for the most part, it will be sarcasm, but it doesn't always have to be. So, not on your paper, you don't have notes if you're watching this, but if we're looking at some more examples of irony from movies, TV shows, what's ironic about Monsters, Inc.? Well, usually humans are afraid of monsters. We have scary stories. Kids are always afraid of monsters in their closet. But in Monsters, Inc., it's the monsters that are afraid of the humans. It's opposite than what we would expect. So we would call that situational irony. Next up, we're going to be looking at this guy, Marlin from Finding Nemo. What is so ironic from Marlin from Finding Nemo? We could look at this at 2 different ways, but let's see. The first is he's a clownfish, but he isn't funny. So that could be situational irony because we would expect a clownfish to be funny. But we could also call it dramatic irony because we know from the beginning of the movie Marlin's not a funny guy. He's nervous, he's fretful, but the other characters don't know he's not funny until he opens his mouth. So that's dramatic irony. We knew he was not funny, the other characters did not. Got one more example for you. This little guy. What's ironic about Remy from Ratatouille? I love this movie so much. Remy's a rat, and rats are known for being filthy, filthy animals. But instead of becoming a street rat that pilfers through all types of garbage and eats trash, Remy becomes a cook. It's an outcome that's opposite than what we would originally expect from his character. So we would call this situational irony. Now, we can look at this as dramatic irony too, because throughout the entire movie, Remy is calling the shots under the main character's hat. None of the other characters know that Remy is the actual cook, but we, the audience, do. So that can be dramatic irony as well. All right, folks, that's it for figurative language. Be sure to go back, watch all those videos. They're awesome examples that really help nail in what these different types of figurative language are. Remember, I did put filled in notes on Google Classroom for you. Those notes are going to come in handy when we're studying for quizzes, for tests, or just completing daily assignments. So, let me know if you've got any questions about figurative language or anything else that we're doing. And I really hoped this helped you out a little bit.